Just a few words tonight about something that came up in the most recent tricycle installment in the Way of the Green Bodhisattva. This week was on meditation. And I made reference to a teaching in the Pure Land tradition, Jinin Honi. This is a Japanese Pure Land teaching. And Jinin Honi literally means made to become so by itself. This is what Shinran says, the founder of the Jodo Shinshu school of Buddhism, who lived, almost 800 years ago now, I guess. Ji means of itself, not through the practicer's calculation. It signifies being made so. Nen means to be made so. It is not through the practicer's calculation, it is through the working of the Tathagata's vow. Tathagata is another word for Buddha, but it implies so much more than a physical person. Tathagata is really the world. Shinran says, considering Honi, Honi signifies being made so through the working of the Tathagata's vow. It is the working of the vow where there is no room for calculation on the part of the practicer. Know therefore that in other power, no working is true working. Now, other power is an idea that we find in the Pure Land tradition. We also find it in the 12-step tradition, the idea of a higher power. In Pure Land Buddhism, it's not so much a higher power, meaning up there, it's other power, which simply means something other than our calculating mind, our calculating self, which wants to preserve its life, which wants to spin the world in its direction, which wants to come out ahead, come out on top, win, live not die, live forever, have lots of money, whatever. We can calculate just about anything. And Shinran says that the working of other power is no working, and that is true working. Made to become so by itself is the expression. Jinin signifies being made so from the very beginning. Amita's vow is from the very beginning designed to bring each of us to entrust ourselves to it, saying, Namu Amida Butsu, and to receive us into the Pure Land. None of this is through our own calculation. Thus, there is no room for the practicer to be concerned about being good or bad. This is the meaning of Jinin, as I have taught. And then he goes on a bit, but that's the essence of it. There is no room for the practicer to be concerned about being good or bad. Why? Because Amida Buddha will save you either way. Now, I've thought a lot about this. This, I think, especially for 20th century people raised on Holocaust literature, for instance. Okay, it's very difficult to imagine living in a world and not being concerned about being good or bad, or good or evil. It's hard to imagine living in a world where you're not concerned about the possibility of massive suffering perpetrated on other people who are innocent. Of course, it's been going on throughout, all time. But our delusion is that by trying to make ourselves good, not bad, that we will achieve anything like peace on earth. That's always the great delusion, that by trying to make ourselves good, not bad, that we will be able to effect some great social change. We have the same idea about the environment, that by being environmentally sound or healthy or wise, we will be environmentally good, not evil, not predatory, not... We look at like the BP oil executives and we think, thank God I'm not like him, or I don't want to be like him, or I want him to be better, or to have made different decisions, or to make different decisions and institute different policies in the future. But none of these attitudes are going to lead to environmental health or happiness. None of these ideas or attitudes are going to make us good, not evil. What does work is what Shinran recommends, which is that we give up calculation and trust in Jinan Honi, or what he calls Amita's vow, which from the very beginning is made to save all beings. If we look at nature, we find that nature excludes nothing, wastes nothing, and leaves nothing out. Everything is included, everything is embraced, everything is loved, nothing is forsaken, ever. It's all part of one whole. And when we relax into that, we feel satisfied. What human beings really want is happiness, and what human beings really want is satisfaction. Problem is, we can't get no satisfaction from the places where we're looking for it, because the moment we turn away from nature, we cannot find satisfaction in this world. So the way of green meditation is to follow nature and to return to nature. It doesn't necessarily mean that you instantly sell your house in the city and move to the country and begin organic gardening. If it were that simple, a lot of people would do it. And it is actually is both not that simple and much simpler than that. Because what it requires is in each moment for us to turn towards nature rather than away from it. That means to turn towards eternity rather than away from it. Towards the feeling of enoughness rather than towards want and dissatisfaction. Towards kindness rather than towards aggression towards other people. Acts of aggression, even very minimal, mild acts of aggression like harsh words or hostile attitudes, even mildly hostile attitudes, are themselves a way of expressing our dissatisfaction with nature. It doesn't seem that way, but it is. Every moment our bodies breathe on their own. Not one of us has to remind our body to breathe. Each moment our hearts beat. Our white blood cells fight infection. Our synapses fire. All of these things happen without our volition, without our having to make them happen. They are made to become so, like themselves. It rains without being told to. The birds sing without being prompted. All of these things happen on their own. And yet we turn away from these primal experiences and these primal experiences of satisfaction and enoughness and contentment and beauty. And we turn away from them constantly into a frame of reference that is purely and only human, which is anthropocentric at its core, and which tells us that the real economy is the monetary economy, or the economy of fame or meaning or value or self-importance or pride, rather than the moneyless economy of nature, where all things are fed, all things are taken care of, where even those things which die are endlessly and perfectly and impeccably recycled, where even water molecules and air molecules and iron molecules have an indispensable perfect niche in the system, where everything belongs, there is nothing that does not belong, and where even what appears to be evil is recycled and redeemed and forgiven and calmed and pacified and made pure again. That is what we practice when we turn to nature. When we cultivate a mind to follow nature and to return to nature.